Make sure you laugh a lot because the kids are going to need that. And you're going to need it too.
This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Music teachers, you are so important. Today we have expert Adrian Gordon with us. He has a piece, Song of the Ocean Wind, a lot of music teachers perform. He's been working for 20 years in the music classroom, leading all state choruses as well. And he has a book called Note to Self. So Adrian, how do you build a thriving music program? Where do you coach a music teacher to begin?
The first thing that you have to do is kind of be sustainable for yourself, making sure you're eating well, making some exercise, making sure you're sleeping well. I've had this where I will be up late. My mind is just turning and going through different things and checklists and stuff like that. So I actually now do have my Google Task sheet. So anything that I'm thinking, I just add it on there. So that allows me to kind of free up some mental space and make sure that I'm able to get some sleep and then be ready to go the next day in the classroom. And then the second part, I think, has to be remember your why. Think about why you're doing what you're doing versus what you're doing. We are building character. We are helping students. We are encouraging creativity, and that music happens to be that vehicle to do that. That's what's going to make that change in students' lives. So it's important to just remember that why and not get too caught up in what you're doing in the daily regimen of getting everybody in tune and making sure we're all seated and conducting and fixing instruments. I know all that is very important. It truly is. But at the end of the day, making sure that we're connecting with those students is really important as well.
You have to start somewhere, right? And so sometimes you might have that student that is not quite there yet,
Yeah, and you really got to meet them where they are. So if you're coming into a new program, maybe the expectations aren't as high as you would had hoped for. But the important thing is to meet them where they are. And then you set that goal. You set a tangible goal and it needs to be incremental. So for example, I've come into situations where, I would expect, at this level, an orchestra should be playing a grade 2 piece. So all our music is graded by level. And that's okay if they're not. We'll start at grade 0 or half or grade 1, and then we will slowly build to that level, making sure that we're still connecting with the students, but also giving them clear guidelines and expectations of how to grow. That's important. I think that's what you want to see. So you're not overwhelming students, but they're also having fun through that learning process, just meeting them where they are.
Anybody who listens to your YouTube channel will realize, wow, Adrian is not only an incredible musician and an incredible conductor, but he has a very high standard of excellence. What happens when you have a kid who's just trying an instrument for the first time? How do you start where you can get them there and you can see what they can be tomorrow as you work with them today?
I think the first thing that I try and do is lighten the mood for each class and each ensemble. If anybody knows me, I'm the biggest nerd, and I am a sucker for a good dad joke. So I always start off my classes with a dad joke, and I think that kind of lightens the mood and lets people know I'm not here to wag my finger in your face. I'm not here to beat you over the head with my instrument or my baton. I'm really here to help you grow, improve. You can feel comfortable to come ask me questions. I'm going to be here to help you during break or after school. That's my mission, to really let them know that I do care for them. So I try and set that mood first in each class and each rehearsal that, hey, this is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be lighthearted, and we're going to make some great music together. It's important also to build community if you really want to have a cohesive program. So one of the things that I typically try and do are events outside of the classroom. You'll see us doing things like movie nights where we will come together after school. We'll typically get maybe 15 different kinds of pizzas and from different chains, and we do a little taste testing, and we all dress up in our pajamas and watch a movie and have popcorn. So it's stuff like that, I think, is really important to build the bond. If you really want your group to be, a well-functioning, cohesive group, It's important that they get along. It's important that they now become accountable to each other, not just as a colleague, but as a friend. That this is my friend and I can't let them down.
That's great. So it's more than just to getting together in class time or rehearsal time. It's about building a bond of trust because really they're a team, right?
Yeah, they are a team. Yeah, it's not like they're on the field, but they definitely are accountable to each other. It's not like a math class. If you forget to do your homework or you do poorly on a quiz, it really just affects you. But when you don't participate and you don't engage in the class, it affects every other person in that ensemble. So you really want to make sure that they're a cohesive group and really accountable to each other. They all have that mutual respect for one another.
Yeah. You could travel back in time and talk to Adrian Gordon, a first year music teacher. What would you tell him?
Make sure you laugh a lot because the kids are going to need that and you're going to need it too. And then I would say strive for excellence within yourself and very gently and very carefully try and communicate that to your students.
And that's advice for every classroom. That speaks to me. Those are timeless messages. Being strive for excellence in yourself. Do you feel like when you talk to music teachers across the country, what are their biggest frustrations right now?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is funding. I think a lot of it is scheduling. That's a big problem, and I think a lot of it is competition with different elective choices in our current culture. It gets a little difficult to convince a student to stick with this particular craft. When you're completely honest about it, you're going to say, "Hey, you should invest in this craft because it's going to be hard. You're going to sound terrible at first. It's it's not going to sound good at all, but it's going to be one of the most rewarding things you've ever done in your life, and you're going to grow." And develop bonds and friendships and relationships for a lifetime with these musicians. It's going to help you in all other areas of your life. It's hard to convince students of that message at a young age when they're really into just the swipe culture. Anything that they don't want to do, they don't want to look at, they don't want to interact with, they just swipe. But our particular subject area isn't like that. It does take time. It does take patience and discipline. But I do think one of the things that I've seen is letting those students know that you really care for them. It really has made a difference. It really has let them know that this is a safe spot for me. No matter what else is going on around campus, I can always come to this room and feel comfortable, feel at ease.
Work with a digital film program. That's one of my elective courses that kids take. And I struggle with a lot of the same thing you do. But one thing I tell them is that anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly at first until you can do it well. Because we have to, there's a process we have to go through to learn, and particularly in the creative arts, there's just so many nuances that you only learn through experience. And could you give a motivational pep talk to music teachers everywhere about why they're so important?
Yeah, music teachers, we have a unique role in that we get to see students for years on end. So a lot of times we'll see them for 3, 4 years at a time, which most academic teachers don't get to see them for. So we have an opportunity to develop a really strong bond with them, watch them grow into really awesome human beings. That's a unique thing for students, and they're not going to really get that anywhere else. And I think in our classrooms, they really come alive. I think they can really be themselves. If allowed and done properly, connect their outside world, what they're hearing on radio, seeing on TV and movies, and connect that to their instrument and what they're doing in the classroom. It's supposed to be a really special and magical spot for them in their development. And I think it's an honor to be a part of that, regardless of the hardship.
So the book is Note to Self by Adrian Gordon. Also check out his compositions. He's written quite a bit that orchestras are performing at all different levels. Very talented musician who loves music teacher, loves kids, practical advice for the classroom. So I hope you'll pass this along to your favorite music teacher. I know I have one I'm going to send it to. Thanks for coming on the show, Adrian. Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. Watch the video version of this podcast and catch my new radio and TV show, Cool Cat Teacher Talk, on YouTube and a radio or TV station near you. Join my Cool Cat Teacher Classroom Matters newsletter at coolcatteacher.com/newsletter. Leave a review if you found this helpful. See you later, educator.